People always basically spoil the relationship or destroy relationship by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
So you don't think you say the wrong thing at the wrong time?
I'm very careful. I'm very careful outside Parliament.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever said?
In Parliament, I'm not so careful because they don't allow me to talk.
Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Bajape. Today's episode is actually born out of one other one that we did previously. So we're going to come to it in a minute, but we have today a very special guest and we'll let him introduce himself. You guys don't already know him.
Yeah, good to see you again. I'm Man Wai. I'm from the Progress Singapore Party, PSP, and I'm an NCMP in Parliament.
Yeah.
Nice to be here today.
Great. Yes, and I want to give another shout out to, once again, our sponsor, Audio Technica, right? So I love their mics. This is the 2040 series. We used to use the 2100 series. I think we still use it, right? And all the audio quality so far, we have been using AT mics. Right? So let us know whether you think it's better. But shout out once again to our friends at Audio Technica, right? Awesome. So the other day, I think we recorded an episode around retrenchment. I think one of the guests had a reaction to this, like, because I was saying, then maybe you should go back and tell your family first, right? Like, so that they know what's happening, right? But actually he had a very different view. He was like, oh no, I don't really want to tell my family, right? Because I don't want them to worry and all that, right? So that it became like that discussion had two camps. One camp of people feel like, yeah, bad things must tell at home. Right? And then the other camp is like, oh no, cannot. Bad things cannot go to home. Right? So, and I think both sides, the argument kind of has some basis. That's why I wanted an extended discussion today to talk a little bit about, is the home a safe space? Right? And how do we then define the safe space? Is it like endless, unlimited, or are there certain boundaries involved and all that jazz, right? So yeah, well, actually when my producer told me that they got you, I was like, hey, ask Mama, you want to talk about this topic? No? Because you're very politically not correct, right? In Parliament, wait. I was like, is this the same thing at home? Right? So I want, maybe you want to start off. Is the home a safe space?
Okay, I think to anticipate the development of this topic today. Yeah? So I think maybe to take one step back, even whether it's home or workplace, talking to your colleagues or your bosses or in any social setting, whether you can do something or not depends on the timing and also depends on how well you are established in that social setting. So if you have really been very good in building a good family, then of course the family members, your wife, your children will be able to take whatever you throw at them. But if you haven't been building that setting yourself, and then one day you go back and just throw a very whole bunch of bad emotions at them and say, shit, I got retrenched and all that, then of course they may not take it very well. I think it depends on the work that we have done before rather than
I think that's an interesting point. We're coming to that. I like the idea because it's about the place that you built, right? And how much you have built, what you have put into it to then define whether or not it's a safe space.
People always basically spoil the relationship or destroy relationship by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
So you don't think you say the wrong thing at the wrong time?
I'm very careful. I'm very careful outside Parliament.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever said?
In Parliament, I'm not so careful because they don't allow me to talk.
Okay, fair. But that's your prerogative, right? On some level.
Prerogative in
Parliament. You go into challenge and you want to,
No, not prerogative. I think it's I've said that many times, it's the basic duty of parliamentarian.
Okay.
You know, you sit there for what? Well, the whole place so nice, the aircon is so comfortable, the seat is so comfortable. You just sit there for what?
For sleep.
It's for you to have the comfort to ask the relevant question for the sake of Singapore and Singaporeans. Period.
Great. That will go viral also. Okay. Come, share with me. What do you think, right? Is the home a safe space?
I was part of the camp where you should bring it back, right?
Yes.
But I think also, in holding a safe space, if we think about it as a therapist and her patient, the therapist is the one holding that space for the patient. But in a family context, the family member or members may not be in that situation all the time to hold that space also. So it also depends, like for example, if I come back, I had a bad day at work, I come back, I want to rant about it. But my husband's busy, right? Or he's like killing cockroaches because you found, then he's very emotionally affected. So it's like, it's not a good time for me to talk about that, to rant about that.
Right?
Yeah, it's about the timing. But yet sometimes, like if you miss a period to talk, right, after a while you just kind of like, forget it lah. Lazy to say already.
And it fulfilled the goal on some level. In a sense that if you had a bad day, you go back home and you don't dump it there because firstly, you respect that everybody else also have their own tempo in life. And just so happened that day, the people at home have not in the right tempo to engage you, right? And eventually it fade away.
Right? For the trivial stuff,
it's not important anymore.
For the not so important stuff, for the little rants here and there, that's fine. I think it changes when it's something really big.
Like what?
Like, for example, retrencher, the episode that we were talking about, right? Like, what if you come back and you just got a notification that you were retrenched? You want to tell your family, but everyone else is not having a good day either. Right? Maybe your kid is studying for O-levels, very stressed. Then your husband, something happened at work also, very stressed. So you don't say in that day. The next day, you try to find the right moment, but again, no right moment to do so. And it just keeps building. And then at what stage do you then let it out? Like if you do it 1 week later, you finally find the time and space to do that. Then like, why you tell me now? Why you never tell me on that day? When did this happen? Oh, last week. Why you never tell me? You were busy. I didn't want to burden you. So then that safe space and how much you say out of it tends to get diluted also, right? Because your emotions are always the highest when it just happened. And that's where we need that safe space to, dump it, talk about it. Sometimes not even about a solution, but just having someone hear us out. But if we're not able to do that, then it just wait and wait. When is the right moment? And then after a while, like what you say, even for trivial stuff, it tends to get diluted already. You just kind of like forget it lah. And it gets worse for some people whereby that's the second camp, right? So they end up not even saying about it at all.
Yeah. And I will say, I think for a lot of people, whether it's at home or in between different people, right? Relationships across different people, a lot of times the emotions are not targeted at you.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of the time, the emotions is just a reflex reaction, right? It's a mechanism that we have inbuilt in our lives.
Yeah.
When they react, they're very angry. Actually, they're not angry at you. They're just angry.
Yeah.
Right. But they're talking to you, hoping that you can calm their anger.
That's why we say don't take it personal.
And I think don't take it personal has gotten to the next level, right? Where there are a lot of scientific proof around this, to suggest that actually the emotional reaction is not at you, right? And that is something that I think we all need to really like take it in. But if it's at you, it's very clear one. It's very personal. And it's like, I'm very angry at you. Right? It's very clear.
Then that one is conflict management.
Yeah, that one is different. That one is a different topic.
Right.
But when it comes to like the handling the accidental emotional spillage, right? That people around you have because you live amongst people. I think for a lot of us, you don't go and double trigger lah. Right, so the person very angry already, then they are trying to release their emotions at you. Then you'll be like, why you like that at me? Right? Wow, that's gonna be worse because you trigger back the person, you're triggered, and then the thing become an exponential problem. Right? So I think de-escalating from that view is always a great place to start. Whether at home or anywhere else.
We all want the home to be a safe space lah, where we can speak unfiltered. Like say rubbish and then if wrong, never mind, later correct. But it's also true that when we are not too careful, and we don't select the right moments, we don't select the right words.
Don't take it for granted.
It could lead to longer term consequences.
Correct.
Yeah. And I mean, I was reading this parenting book a few weeks ago, right? And it's titled How to Speak So Little Kids Will Listen. And what struck me the most was, actually my kid is very young. He's only just beginning to learn words. You mean he understands the difference between this word and the whole emotional connotation it contains? And the authors of the books were like, yes lah. Like they would say, for example, you cannot praise in this way, you must praise in this other way because it leads to these other consequences and blah blah blah. You can't say I'm proud of you. You must say you did well because one praises their effort and one takes away the credit. I'm like, you mean little kids care and feel and understand all of that? But these are like just 2 and 3 year olds we're talking about, And
But Don, to a certain extent, it does,
Yeah, it does,
from
right?
my own parenting
Please
experience.
share. Please share.
Kids are very, very sensitive. They are so, and they are marvelous angels. They can absorb so fast, the sponge, They absorb so fast, and they not only absorb the literal meaning of what you say, but also the emotional meaning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, has there been instances where you spoke unfiltered in your household then?
Yeah, you're very unfiltered in Parliament. Are you as unfiltered at home?
Unfiltered in your
Unfiltered in Parliament, please.
Comment in the comment section below. What do you think? Right? Are you as unfiltered at
I'm
home?
unfiltered in Parliament. View to be unfiltered in Parliament is I think Singaporeans are not used to this kind of debate in Parliament. But this should be the kind of debate in Parliament. In fact, I think what I've said in Parliament so far is not everything that should happen in Parliament. It should be even more unfiltered in Parliament. That's what. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but what about home?
home,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
When I was younger, when I was busy looking after my career and all that, I was a bit more bad-tempered. So I bring the bad emotions home. Yeah, so it was very unfiltered sometimes. So but I have a very supportive wife, and my children are also very good, mainly because the mother had taken them well. So I don't have big problems in the family. But
So they held the safe space for you on days when you brought back the negative emotions from work.
Right, yeah. But when I bring back the negative emotions from work, I don't really also at the same time tell them what happened at the workplace. Just the emotion comes out, And sometimes I go back and maybe my wife says, "Oh, today your turn to teach him mathematics." I say, "I'm not going to do it today," That kind of thing.
Then what has changed over the years? So you become more filtered in your own household?
Over the years, the responsibilities in a way to take care of the kids and all that become less and less. So that's why I'm strongly against PSLE. PSLE put a lot of stress on Singaporeans families. When I was running my career, I was so busy. I was even thinking of starting my own company, and then this PSLE thing comes in.
And it's not just the children stress, right? The parents also very stressed.
PSLE is parent stress. And of course, the children also very pitiful.
It's a different type of stress. It's a competition of tutors and parents.
Yes. That's why Hazel and myself had actually advocated in Parliament that we should at least provide two pathways. One pathway is no PSLE, the other pathway is PSLE. To let Singapore.
That's called the integrated program.
No integrated program. That's a different integrated. In fact, the integrated program today, if you ask me, is wrong. Because it make the competition starts at PSLE. After that, no more competition.
Oh.
That shouldn't be the case. Competition must start later.
Oh.
Yeah, but we have to open that to further discussion.
Yes.
Society must come to a consensus because education is a very sensitive topic. Yes.
Fair. Okay.
So I just let out my secret my secret grievance. That's PSLE. PSLE caused a lot of strain in my family life in my early 30s, I can tell you.
I know what you're going to answer, but is your home a safe space?
My home is not a safe space, right? And my home is not a safe space. I mean, at least not my
current home.
Not my family's home, but my current home, I think, is a much better space, right? So where I stay, is
because it's just you and the cats, what?
Yeah, and my partner. Right? So I think that is a much safer space. And as someone that came from a very turbulent space into a space where it's like, oh, very safe, huh? Like no random things happen, huh? It's very empowering, like the feeling, and which is why I think I do echo this point that if you don't live in a safe space, maybe you want to shift up, right? And I know it's not the government's position, right?
correct.
Family unit, all that, everything is family unit, but
mental wellness.
But I come from a view that if the abusers are at home, right, and then the problems are at home, then you got to go out, right? And from an intervention strategy standpoint, you got to leave, right? And I'm not saying I would argue that I don't think this is a majority situation, right? But for the slither of minority, right, that their struggles are not being highlighted because the narrative is family, right? Which I also understand the narrative, but for a lot of you that feel like, you're not seen, right? Aku see you. I know. I know the struggles, right? And when you shift out, or at least when I shifted out and I got into a much safer space, of course I had to build the space, which is why I like what you brought out in the front part. You got to build it. You got to draw boundaries. You got to draw parameters, and you got to keep depositing goodwill into this space, right? Do good things.
Like anything in life, like you have to build it.
Yeah.
Even your relationship with your partner, right?
Yeah.
Your husband-wife relationship also, right? You have to build it. You cannot, after the courtship, after the marriage, you take it for granted. Just throw your socks everywhere. You throw your, all your bad habits come out. That cannot be what you must continue to, slowly adjust.
Fair. Yeah. But once it's built, right? Once it's built, of course there's some maintenance, right? You gotta kind of maintain it. So that's easy.
The maintenance is part of building.
Yeah, fair.
The building process never ends.
It never ends. Stress, right? It never ends. The other I got a short story later, but because I shifted into a much safer space, I feel that I thrive better, and I could throw bad things there, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I come from the camp that if your home is not that safe space that you can throw bad things, right? When you're not feeling well, then it's not a great home. You got to rebuild it,
of course.
Move out and rebuild your own safe space.
Yeah. So I actually come from the camp that is, your home must be safe space, must be able to throw shit. But when you throw shit there, right, then you must also know that there is also a deduction from this process. Right, because you expense it, right?
You lost your credit.
Right. You lost your credit.
You expanded your credit.
Finance people, right, must think like that, right? You keep depositing, then like bad days, you credit out, right? You take it out, then you must build back, after that must buy flowers, must add on, right? And it's not always just about material, but it's a lot of ways to kind of go about building a safe space, right? But to me, you need that. And if you don't have it, and it doesn't seem like your current environment can become that, then you gotta go.
Yeah, I think it's really super important. I mean, to make you feel less alone, before I built my own home, I didn't feel like my parents' home was a safe space for me either. And it came from like accumulated, right? Like you say, it's actually over years. Because like when I was younger and then I came back, I remember when I came back with my first breakup, I was judged. Why are you so stupid? Go and date boys
God.
Huh? I break up and that's what I get. Like, I'm crying and that's what I get. Like, okay. Then after that, when something happened at my job, it was also very judgmental. Why are you so stupid? Let your boss do this to you? So everything is always, and hence like over time I just learned it's not a safe space, and after a while just don't say already. And it helped a lot when I moved out and then I met my current husband. We have our own space. I lived with him for a while after we got married, and that was my safe space. Because when I say the same thing to my mom-in-law, for example, right, there's no, why are you so stupid? Maybe because I'm not her daughter, so she doesn't say that, right? And she's like, oh, why your boss like that? Then it makes you feel better. You're someone's on my side.
Maybe she's not on your side. In a sense, maybe she takes the position of the boss, right? Like what the DBS guy said, right? Like work-life balance is balloony, right? Maybe, but that's aside, right? Because at the point in time at home, right, if someone spews that on you, you're not there to rationalize the problem away, and to have that kind of emotional intelligence to know that actually.
But that one I have to also because different generation, different way of expressing their love to you. Right? Like when I look at my parents, they would also never. My parents are probably a bit more understanding lah. When to boast a bit, I never give them problem lah.
You're a very good son.
Academic results.
Everything's sweet.
My parents, they also never outwardly express love or that kind of thing. And sometimes like I look at, it's true. My younger brother, more scolding. Why you do this? Why you do that? Right? So, but that's the way of upbringing in the older generation. Okay, and even my generation, some of this was passed down. Many of my friends also couldn't communicate with their kids very well. I don't think I'm also that good with the kids, but because my wife is very supportive, so we maintain a very good relationship. But really, it's a way of education and also culture, way of life in Singapore. We haven't gone too deep into the culture thing, you know what I mean? Partly because in the past our standard of living is not so good. So we were hard pressed to.
Yeah, it was more about survival, right? Culture and all, it's like second
So that's why now
nature.
what we are talking in Parliament is that don't be stuck in that mode.
Mm.
We must give the space to our Singaporeans to develop that. You go overseas. I live 18 years overseas. You will say that, the some nationalities, Western nationalities, they're very direct people. They just talk very directly at you in negotiation and all that. But when you go and live in their country, you look at them, they would always say very nice things to one another. You say, oh dear, today's dinner is good, huh? How do you feel?
Yeah, that's very British.
But Singaporean never say such thing, no?
Yeah. Asian culture not like that one.
They always use Singaporeans. They don't have that, you know. And then whenever we sit down in the restaurant, we say, "Hey, how come the food still not here yet?" There's this culture thing. Because I was lucky enough. I went to Japan at a very early age. And I see how they behave. And then when in my work, I went to London, I went to New York. You know, although they seem very direct, we have the impression that certain nationalities are very direct. But actually, when they're in their personal life, they are far more caring. And in Singapore, our people may not be so direct in the workplace. But actually, their personal life,
They're very direct.
they are very direct. You know?
Yeah. I think this other culture, actually, that's a good point.
I think it's that, you know, you must your parents or, you know, whoever say that to you in the family, they may not be out of bad motive also, but that's the way they express. Hey, we always compete, no? How can we lose to that boy?
It's just communication.
I mean, but I also don't want to, discredit that there is the element, right? There's the element of, the lack of safe space at home is traumatic upbringing, all that, right? So I think those are on some level valid, but I also feel like, for a lot of the millennials and even the Gen Zs, right? Because different generation have different cultural nuances, right? In terms of that. And if you interact with different groups and different generations, on some level, we should grow some sort of emotional understanding and a bit of intelligence to say that is the equilibrium. Like in that generation, this is the equilibrium. People talk like that. But
that's the standard.
That's the standard. But got variance one. Within the equilibrium got variance.
Exactly,
right? So there is still variance of like, actually this is what caring is like. Japa boy. And japa boy is different, right? Right? So there is still variance.
But the next generation changes.
And I think this has to be a cross-generation understanding.
Exactly.
That means the older people also need to understand from the younger people, right? That we have a different variance and a different equilibrium in the way as to how we express ourselves.
That's why I think the definition of home being a safe place is different for the Merdeka generation, different from the millennial generation, and it's different from the Gen Z generation.
Gen Z. Yeah, I agree. Actually, if you think about it, right, the old generation where like even food was a scarcity. That's why they always say "japa bui," right? Because you eat already means it's comfort. Yeah, correct.
Exactly.
So to them, that was their top priority.
Yes.
And hence that is their safe space. When you're at home, you're well fed, you have a space to sleep, you're not too cold.
That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
that
I
is
cannot
the safe
give you more,
space.
right?
Correct. No emotion one. That's it.
Yeah.
But our generation is different because we already have all of that. Ours is like, I don't want to eat, I diet. Right? So don't keep asking me to eat. So now it's really about more of like, how can we hold that emotional safe space so that our generation can adapt. Our generation has this opportunity to build it right and do it in a way that we did not get from the previous generation, while recognizing that they did their best also, because that was their norm. Then we do it now for our generation, and then our kids will go on with a different view and a different way and interpretation of what their safe space means as well. So we talk about those different norms in each generation, right? And one thing that has come out quite recently is that our generation, because we harbored, some of us harbor that, gripe and regret that our parents were like that, and to some families, generational trauma, right? And in some families, that ties have completely been broken off. That's why you see policies that say the children must give the parents. You can sue your child for not giving you allowance, right? But that is making it very extreme already. Like, what is your view? Do you think that this is something, is there anything that can be done to help repair these generational traumatic relationships so that, as a society, as a unit, we can then move forward together rather than all these are like, I disown you, I don't talk to you anymore, you're on your own. And then we have all these elderly folks who raise children, but their children hated the way they were raised, not by anyone's fault. Both parties had a part to play. But yet, these elderly folks are now left alone, and then the entire burden falls to the state. Do you have any ideas or solutions? Has that been something
Actually, we just debated the bill recently also in Parliament on that. So actually, the view of my personal view is that actually the maintenance of the parents, it should be out of a spontaneous reaction. It should not be made into law.
So it's a moral identity.
Moral identity, yes.
Okay.
Because there must be some history behind it. That if a child is not taking care of their parents, usually it's not parents. Usually end up as a single parent, either only left with the daddy or left with the mommy maybe. So I think there are usually some family history to it. Then secondly is that sometimes, and very often actually in Singapore nowadays, the children really cannot afford. Really cannot afford because of all the, just now we talk about this high cost of living, right? So if they can't afford, then if we really want them to take care of their parents, then we have to run policies whereby we can increase their financial leeway before they can help the parents, right?
Fair. I think
so
that's a fair point.
I don't think we are not actually in that. We are not that in agreement with the bill actually. So we think that the state should take more responsibility to take care of that. And that is, you see, you force them to take the responsibility instead of making the family or the home a safe place. You make it an even more terrible place, right? Because you're forced to do that.
Forced to do it.
Yeah. You
Okay.
see? So of course, before we ended up in that stage, there's a long process that both sides, especially the parents, they didn't really build it into it's a happier place. So that's
They
why you have
didn't
a
make
lot.
all those deposits,
Yeah,
they didn't build,
deposit.
right?
Never
Now they want to
credit,
withdraw,
yeah,
then
yeah.
negative
Bankrupt
balance
already.
already.
Bankrupt. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show. Okay, so I think we are in quite some consensus around the family unit, right? In the sense of like the home as a safe space, you must deposit first, right?
Yeah,
Cannot
must
keep
build.
taking, you must build. But when you need to take, you should take, right?
And then you break already, you must repair.
Yeah. So I think that's that basis, right? But this building process, maybe as an individual, of course, we have individual responsibility. We should build our own home. But maybe what's your take? Maybe you can share with us a little bit more about like what is PSP's take towards building a stronger like family as a safe space type of things.
I think it starts off with the individual. So that's why education is very important. Well-educated citizens will create good families.
Wait, you mean like well educated?
Well-educated, of course, the assumption is that the education system will also impart morals, empathy, values,
So it's not just about academic.
Not about skills and training.
Yeah,
Must clarify, this is not high educated, right? Not the Lee Kuan Yew, only uni grads can have kids, right?
no.
But maybe well-rounded education. Well-rounded citizens will basically be able to build good families. With that. Then after that, of course, he has the emotional maturity and intelligence to actually interact with people, form, and then find the right partner, and then form the families. And of course, everyone when they form a family, they wanted to have a very good family, right? Then after that, but it depends on himself. How it depends on the partners, how they actually can get together and continue to build the family. But at the same time, the family is constantly bombarded by negative energy from the society.
Confirm is negative.
Confirm negative. And in Singapore, I think that negative energy is a lot. Okay, so we need to reduce that level of negative energy. And currently, most of the negative energy comes from money not enough. So you solve that problem, I think a large part of the problem will be solved, and we will be able to have healthier families, families who can allow the next generation, or even allow the parents themselves to maximize their potential, allow the next generation to grow in a stable environment. And so they develop into emotionally stable persons. And that actually holds the key to the future of Singapore. You ask me. Yeah.
That's your National Day speech.
Rally speech for the G.
Okay, but I mean, I have a question that is a bit tangential, but I want to find out, right? Because a lot of your platform, or maybe generally from an opposition camp's platform is minimum wage, and it's a lot of supporting of the broader society, that people that are struggling, very seriously from a financial standpoint, which, I do agree, right? But the middle class, like the median wage earners, what are your plans for them? Like what do you think? Is it still the case? Right? Is the theory still intact where they need to make a bit more so that they will so that they create a better home? And if so, what is your platform towards helping the median wage earner to move even further into their higher wages, make more money?
Okay, actually, I disagree that what we say in Parliament so far is mainly on helping the lower income. Actually, most of my speeches, if you follow more closely.
I follow a lot. Millennial housing scheme, all that.
Millennial housing is median income, right? So, and the whole premise of us recommending a different pricing mechanism for HDB is to help the median income. It's not so much of the low income, because lower income will be, they already got a lot of subsidies and they got rental flats and all that, right? So it's how to allow the middle income to have more financial leeway, so that they feel that they're financially secure, and so they can take bigger risk in their career, try new things, So that is actually the main thing that PSP is trying to drive at. Yeah. So as a result, most of what we are advocating in Parliament, recommending in Parliament, is that, like the GST, we talk about the GST hitting the middle class most, right? So I thought about it, the middle class is going to pay $1.2 billion more. And this is not paid by the lower 10-20%, because they have GST vouchers, right? So it's paid by the middle class, from the 20th percentile to the 80th percentile. The top 20, they pay 1.8 billion. But this one pay 1.2 billion. So this was actually quite widely debated in Parliament on that. But of course, the government's argument is that, everyone pay taxes, so it's fair, that kind of thing. So, but they didn't directly answer the question that, is this 1.2 billion really affecting the middle class or not? And it is, because it's according to numbers and all that. So a lot of what we say is actually to help the middle class. But what we have said, however, does not include more vision about what the middle class can do. We only put it very vaguely that if you give this financial security to the middle class, they will be able to exercise more creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Because to go into the area is a whole area of what is the vision for Singapore going forward. PSP is ready to debate on that. But we think that at the moment there may be too much information going out. So we are just talking about financial security first.
Because you need to take care of that first, then you can talk about that, right?
Because as we say just now, quality of life. You must first have a comfortable level of living, right? So inside a comfortable level of living, the minimum is the minimum wage. Okay, this is, you're right, it's more for the lower level. Okay, but once you have a minimum wage in store, you're likely to see that the wages will be pushed up.
So everyone will
be pushed up. Because you pay this fella, pay somebody at the moment only $1,200 or $500, and you have to pay him $1,800 in the future. The one who is drawing $1,800 will definitely ask for $2,010, right? So also that is the reason why the government is unwilling to have a level and push up the level, right?
So, and you disagree?
I disagree.
You feel like there must be a level.
Yeah, there must be a level. And even if we push up another $300 of for the wage level for all the Singaporeans, so what? You know, I think we can afford it, you know, and the economy can take it. So yeah, we recommended minimum wage. But at the same time, we also recommended housing prices. Once you take out the land price from the BTO, it will cause our HDB market to be less speculative. But the resale price won't collapse, which the government is trying to accuse us of at the moment. It won't collapse. Once you price it differently, then Singaporeans will pay just the construction cost for the HDB price. They will have enough money left behind in the CPF to have their retirement ready. They don't have to think of how much my HDB will be worth when I retire. When is the right timing to sell? Because there's lease decay. You don't have to worry about that. Because when you start worrying about all this, you're devoting time to time the market, which we economists, I'm a practicing economist, so we look at the economy and how to create the economic competitiveness. We don't want people to be worried about all this financing thing. We want people to concentrate on what they like to do best. So that's why we recommended policies to actually stabilize the middle class, so that they are comfortable with, I buy a HDB house, a flat, and I pay much less. So I'm guaranteed that I have the CPF when I retire. So I know I'm taken care of, right? So I work for a number of years. Everything pay off already. Maybe I can think of becoming an entrepreneur, right? So what we have recommended is actually allowing the middle class Singaporeans more room, and more room to actually make a career bet,
I think the word is a bet. Yes,
I want to do this, But right now Singaporeans are all tied down with mortgages and all that. Right?
And I think it's true. Okay. I think there's some validity.
After that, what we recommended is that healthcare, you should make healthcare. Healthcare is another source of uncertainty for Singaporean. Once you have you have a health incident in the family, basically very often it destroy the finances of the family very fast.
Yeah.
And although despite the fact that we still couldn't fathom the whole thing, the whole healthcare system we have today in Singapore, but we keep hearing a lot of anecdotal cases where people say that, one incident, my finances are being destroyed. Probably true today in Singapore is that healthcare is one area that destroy a very strong source of financial uncertainty as well. So when we want to strengthen the financial security of Singaporean, first minimum wage, housing, healthcare, all this has to be done, right? So that's why one of our recommendation is that, okay, now you every 5 years or so, you will raise our MediShield premium. The millennials are young, you all may not follow that very much. But
because it's exponential, the curve at the back, it moves up.
The MediShield premium will get higher and higher when you get older and older.
Of course, as with any
so as you get older and older,
products,
that's when you can't pay, right?
Yeah.
So how can you have a structure like that? And furthermore, we also raise a lot of question about why the premium is like that. What is actually the actuarial experience? Give us your assumptions and let us analyze also. Government haven't offered all that. Although both Workers' Party and myself have demanded that since 2020. Until today, they say, we'll give you at some point in time, but not offer that. So we have been telling, so if it's like that, you must make this MediShield scheme completely paid by the government. Then the government, you manage it. Then you'll be able to manage it better. You manage all the costs, how the insurance company, with the insurance company and all that, right? So then you can bring down the whole healthcare cost for us, right? So this doesn't cost in terms of the resources we have in Singapore, taking over the cost of financing the MediShield system costs about $2 to $3 billion a year. It is not very big within the overall financing ability we have, right? So same with the housing, the BTO housing. If we change the way we price, the government may have to pay $1 to $2 billion every year more. So, but that is also not the final figure. It could be less. So there are all these, you are talking about $1 billion here, $2 billion here, this kind of numbers. And these numbers compared to the tens of billions we are accumulating in or even 100 billion that we are accumulating in reserves every year is a very small number. And the important thing is that we are not doing all this for making Singapore life more comfortable and just let them tan pain.
I don't think comfortable in Tangping is a line, but that one, that one next.
Yeah, and but it's actually give them the security, so that you make these two area very more secure for the Singaporean. The Singaporeans will be able to take more initiative and work harder for themselves, and that will contribute to a different kind of economy in Singapore going forward.
And you feel that also affects the home as a safe space?
Actually, on the other hand, this one, the state doesn't intervene. The state just take over their financing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Instead of now everything pushing to the Singaporeans to fund themselves. You see, our retirement is funded by ourselves, right? CPF, right? Then healthcare is funded by ourselves, right? A lot. So you actually, the state should take over more of that, and then the Singaporeans will be more financially secure. Then they will be able to take more initiative. How they're going to take initiative? That's another set of policies that we can talk in the future.
I can see how this translates into that safe space though, because when you take care of that survival portion and you're less stressed about having to think about your survival.
You're talking about that.
Then that's where you have also more space and capacity to build and hold that safe space at home.
Yes.
But when your home is a stressful
Correct.
area.
You ask me today, the family is constantly bombarded by financial problems in Singapore. You can take away the financial problem, our family space will be more safe, a lot more safer. Yeah.
Okay.
That's an interesting perspective.
That is a different perspective. That's why you must ask politicians to come in, right? Because they will share a different view.
Very different from the
rather
way
than
we
just
would
because I think a lot of
keep the
people,
safe
when we
space.
think about things, is very like individualistic, right? Like, okay, so from my view, what can I do from an individual standpoint, right?
Human beings are social animals, so they would prefer to be in a society, but a society that's governed by people's representative who are conscious of this whole thing should make society less imposing on people. In fact, you must create the conditions for them to maximize their potential. So that's why what I say is society conditions a person potential to realize his full potential. That means society conditions what a person can do and cannot do. Literally, it's like that,
Yeah.
With the government policy, like many years ago, a lot of my members is still very, very, they still have these grievances until today that they were poly students and they couldn't go to university in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And still till today, they cannot compete with the foreigners. They say, because my cert is poly. Whereas all these overseas universities that come in, their standard may not be even as good as our poly. Right? So you see, a policy like that can actually affect you very much. But because you submit yourself to this society called Singapore, you are affected by it. But in order to change it,
We must start with all these
you must
discussions
have politics. Politics decides how a society functions.
And you must have a great podcast, right?
And we did a lot of podcasts, different podcasts to come up to make Singaporeans aware of all these
Different
issues.
discussions.
These are issues actually very widely discussed and debated in democratic countries. But in Singapore, because of our environment and all that, it just somehow the cyberspace is not very big.
We don't get a lot of the media coverage for all these debates.
That's why you tune into the
either.
podcast so that we can have a wider discussion, right? And I would love for different politicians from different party to come on, right? And just defend your positions, tell us what is it about, and all that, right? So I think that's great.
Yeah, great.
Okay, in closing, we talk about this whole safe space thing, right? Okay, so I love it, huh? And we talk about this deposit thing. Right? Like how do you deposit and build a safe space, right? Maybe in closing, everybody can share one tip from a personal level, how do you build that safe space? How do you what do you deposit into your home such that it becomes a safe space? Practical one.
I really like the whole deposits idea and analogy.
Yeah.
For me, it's really about the one actionable thing would be to think of what my family needs and what my loved ones needs in terms of that deposit. Because some people, their love language might be time. Some people might be gifts. Some people might be acts of affection. So like giving the right deposit for each person, I think is also important while building like collectively
Fair.
the whole family unit.
Yourself?
I think like what a free market economist would think of, like you better yourself, okay, in what you're doing, what you achieve would benefit the family already. That means you make yourself, your self-fulfillment is
So
done
is that a
very
trickle
well.
down idea?
Huh?
Are we talking about a trickle down idea?
Trickle down.
Something
You
like
do
trickle
better,
down.
then it will trickle into the family.
Correct. Yeah,
Like that.
you know, as long as you feel that you're doing well, okay, and you're constantly improving yourself, what you have achieved will definitely benefit the family, right? So that's the, I think, the most important thing. That means every human being every person is encouraged to actually think of his own position. How can I make myself even better? Right? And then see what are the opportunities available. At the moment, maybe there are a lot of opportunities that are not available. But if we have better politics, we will be able to create better opportunities. So whatever opportunities that are available today, make best use of it. Better yourself to the fullest of what you can do. And that should translate into good things for the family.
I feel like there's a little bit of a leap there.
Okay,
right?
leap.
I feel like
Okay,
there's a
okay,
bit of a leap
yeah.
because the battleground in career and in business has a very different social dynamics. Right? So if you thrive there, you have to bring on a certain set of social dynamics, right? Certain character traits, certain ideas will thrive in that space, right? And in order to do well there, you must be like that, or at least have some level of that, you know, even though it may not be fully you, right? Like if you do business, on some level you must be combative, right?
Yeah.
Even if you are not combative by nature, you go in, discuss, and negotiate, you must fight, right? On some level. And so I think the whole like business career side of things, that is one aspect of success in life. But if we want to talk about like building the home, I don't think that's a linear trickle down, because the dynamics at home is slightly different, right? And I think
like in anything in human behavior and endeavors, it's never linear.
Yeah, it's never linear. It's never linear.
But it's one of the factor that will
I get it,
affect.
because you got surpluses, you can do a lot more things,
correct,
and that's my point. Essentially, I want more people to realize that, you know, there are different social dynamics at home and at the workplace. A lot of people tuning in, you are middle managers, right? So at home, like at work, you are a leader, you got KPI to hit, everything, right? But maybe you want to tarik that, you know, not so serious when you go back home.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is a great form of putting deposits. Right?
Mm.
Don't be like a military parent at home, right? Because you are a military general, because the requirement of being in the military to succeed, you have to be like that. But at home, it's a different dynamics, right? And I think more and more of the middle class need to realize that.
But don't you think that thing is, like I said just now, it depends on the individual education. And different generation has different education experience. My feeling is that the younger generation should understand that a lot more already compared to the older generation. The older generation may just come back and say, I provided for all of you. You listen to me. I'm the authority. But now I don't think any of the younger generation families will
I think
like
there's
that.
a lot more balance.
Is it? Okay, drop in the comment section. I want to hear, how's your family like? Yes.
So the younger generation's bombardment to them is more like, am I doing as well as the other person or not? You know, I think the constant pressure on themselves a bit more.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think the interesting thing is that, you know, compared to generations ago versus now, previous generations, like what they say, I provide for family, I take care of you, so I'm like the king. Now it's more of a recognition of other types of work. Like, okay, you may be the stay-home mom, but raising kids is not easy.
Not easy,
and you did a lot. And so
Right.
both are still equal, even though one is bringing back the money, the other one is bringing up the kids, but you appreciate and recognize and value each other's work. And I
Correct.
think that's the shift that we're starting to see.
Yeah.
Last point for you is if our listeners they want to follow you more intimately rather than just like your party's website or all that.
Where can they
find you? You know, are you more active on like Twitter or like Instagram, or like do they email you, like, you know, to get to know Man Wai better and not just like Man Wai as part of the party? You know, like how do they get to know you?
Okay, I think for now I have left behind my contact in Facebook, in Instagram, and also the emails, both my personal email and one personal email, and also the official emails are available on my sites.
Okay, so email is the best to reach you.
Whichever you feel comfortable.
Okay. Okay.
We always welcome feedback and anyone who want to come out and talk to us, because whatever we do, we cannot be doing in our own echo chamber. It's not what I think, it's what other people think also. Our Singaporeans think.
Yeah.
That we will get as wide feedback as possible from all
fair.
walks of life.
Put that in the comment section, right? Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.